The M1 Mac Mini is one of just 3 special computers, the first 3 Apple released with their own M-series chips inside. Until 2020, Macs used Intel chips, which was becoming a bit of an issue. Intel were at the very top of the CPU market for basically the entire 2010s and seemed to be slowing down their progress, resting on their lead without pushing their processors much further year on year. Overheating was a big issue as well, and Apple had even redesigned their laptops in previous years to allow for more cooling to hit those top-of-the-line Intel chips. It turned out they were working on a more elegant solution though. Apple Silicon. ARM-based chips with far superior performance, all running on an unbelievably low power draw. It was like a sleeper build competition. Apple had created this giant killer chip, ready to compete with Intel i9s, but when the time came, they only built M1 into 3 entry-level computers releasing in 2020. There was the 13-inch MacBook Pro, the smallest screen model intended for traveling and for work on the go. That sold for £1,300 or dollars. Then there was the M1 MacBook Air, the very cheapest of MacBooks, selling right around the $1,000 mark. But that was such a light computer it didn't even contain a fan, and the screen was dimmer, still just a squintable 13 inches in size. Both MacBooks also only had 2 USB-C ports. The M1 Mac Mini, however, started at just $699. It had a proper cooling fan, 7 ports including USB-A, HDMI and Ethernet, and it plugged into whichever screen and accessories you had already. It made so much sense to buy back then, but Apple Silicon was a bigger boost in performance than we ever could have imagined. It's still got the latest macOS support, and as you can see, it's hardly slowed down a bit. Only video editing can really push this thing hard for me, and your mileage may vary. The M1 Mini is a serious bit of kit at an almost unserious price. This Mac can be found used on eBay right now for less than £300, under $400 US. It's a great way of getting modern Apple Silicon performance at less than half the original price. Except Apple have kind of patched the method. At the end of 2024, they somehow one-up this near-perfect computer, releasing the M4 Mac Mini. Almost a 2 times jump in power, ridiculous idle power usage around the same as a Raspberry Pi, and a design physically half the size of the M1. The M4 Mac Mini is a true marvel of engineering, and somehow Apple released this at just $599, significantly less than the M1 Mini's starting price 4 years prior. It's been a good few years since the release of both computers, so which one should you pick up now for 2026 and beyond? I'm going to come back to that after a quick word about today's video sponsor, Lofree. They sent me their new Flow 2 keyboard to try, and I'll tell you what, I am genuinely loving it. The Flow 2 is a low-profile mechanical keyboard. It's got 3 connection options: wired using a USB-C cable, wireless using the 2.4 GHz dongle included in the box, or Bluetooth, which is what I've gone with on this Mac Mini. I'm particularly impressed with the build quality of this keyboard. It's CNC machined aluminium on the outside, which perfectly matches the tone of Apple computers. There are even screws on the bottom for disassembly, none of this glue nonsense. The keys are shorter than a traditional mechanical keyboard, but taller than the flat ones on a Magic Keyboard made by Apple. You can't deny this keyboard is about as sleek and sophisticated as you can get right now. Lofree were definitely going space age on this one. The fact that it's backlit is a huge win in my book as well. I can honestly say I've never typed on a keyboard that feels quite like this. It's got the most satisfying key travel, almost like popping a bubble underneath every time you tap down. As you can hear, it's not the loudest keyboard I've used, but Lofree make a silent version as well with dampened switches for those who need something really silent. Oh, and I didn't even mention the touch bar. This thing has a touch-sensitive panel on the side for things like volume control and locking the board. Serious. This new version of the Flow 2 has been redesigned for Mac users with the command keys and dual alignment spacebar designed to work seamlessly with macOS shortcuts. You can get the Flow 2 in 4 colours. I'm liking the silver at the moment, but check the link in the description to take a closer look for yourself. Okay, back to the M1 and M4 Mini. The M1 has 8 or 16 GB of DDR4 memory on board running at 4266 MHz. It operates at up to 68 GB a second bandwidth. The M4 Mini is significantly ahead, starting with 16 GB of DDR5 memory. This runs at 7500 MHz with a maximum bandwidth of 120 GB per second. Where RAM is concerned, you're looking at twice the capacity at close to twice the speed, but memory will only take you so far. Apple M1 is an 8-core chip with 4 lower clocked efficiency cores and 4 performance ones running at the full speed of 3.2 GHz. Apple M4 has 10 cores, 6 efficiency and 4 performance. They max out at 4.4 GHz. On paper, it's not a huge jump, but real-life testing and benchmarks on Geekbench 6 and Cinebench suggest the M4 Mac Mini beats the M1 by around 57% in single-core workloads and 80% in multi-core. The M4 Mini also achieved more points per watt in those benchmarks, highlighting its efficiency. Let's not forget, M1 is built on 5nm lithography, while M4 cuts that down to 3nm. There's just better architecture at work here. I'll look at performance and GPUs a bit more shortly, but there's something interesting you need to hear about storage. The M1 and M4 Mac Minis both start at 256 gigs of SSD storage, which is integrated straight onto the SoC. There are options up to 2 TB on both, with Apple charging close to an extra $1,000 for the top-end model. The M1 Mini is a real pain in the buttocks for this, as you can't replace the drive yourself. So what most people do is buy a base spec model and then add an external USB-C drive if the storage space does become an issue. Not ideal, and it just makes the already bigger Mac take up even more space. The M4 Mini is different though. It's got a removable storage drive, so you can effectively put whatever size SSD you want right in there. Just buy a cheap adapter kit and this machine will take an NVMe Blade SSD up to 8 TB in capacity. It's such a strange move from Apple when their ethos for the last 10 years or so has been to solder everything into place at the factory and worry about repairs and upgrades later. This one's not too hard to get into. Here's one I bought earlier that had already been upgraded by someone else, as I really don't have the budget to go digging around inside a £600 computer. You do only have to get through some plastic clips and a large handful of screws to remove the cooling layers and get at the storage drive. Interestingly, the CMOS battery is the easiest part to access, which is probably the first thing that will need replacing if you do keep your Mac for years and years to come. Apple really took their time with this, but it is a smart move. So despite the M1 Mac Mini having Apple Silicon, still running Apple's latest OS, and putting in a great performance in 2026, the M4 Mac Mini represents a serious upgrade in just so many other ways. Upgradable storage, a jump down to half the size of the M1 at just 5x5 inches, and of course a big jump across the board in performance. In the real world, things seem to be running that tiny bit smoother thanks to single-core improvements. Higher clock speed and the like give this thing the edge when doing basic tasks like web browsing and opening different apps. You have to remember, macOS Tahoe was built for M4, and M1 has been gradually slowing down over the 5 years of macOS upgrades it's seen during its lifetime. Neither chip is slow by any means, but M1 just doesn't feel brand new anymore. The M1 Mac Mini contains an 8-core GPU capable of around 2.6 teraflops. Pretty good for its size, and a better iGPU than most 2020 machines had at the time. M4's GPU is another decent jump up though. It's a 10-core chip capable of up to 3.8 teraflops. With the jump from 5nm to 3nm in mind once again, it's not hard to see why video editing and even light gaming does look a lot better on the M4 device. Bear in mind, graphics performance isn't a must for everyone, but if you play games or use your Mac for anything three-dimensional, you will notice a significant difference. So that's the M1 and the M4 Mac Mini in 2026. Two of the absolute cheapest ways of getting some incredible performance from Apple Silicon. It's up to you which to buy. Me personally, I'd shoot for the M4 right now. $600 used is not a lot of money for a machine that will get you through pretty much anything you want. But don't rule out the M1 Mini just yet. It's capable of running pretty much everything the M4 can, just at a more leisurely pace. Yes guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Yeah, you can have that one for free. Yeah, it's good to be back though, seriously. I've finished with work for the summer, so we have 6 weeks clear of What's on Your Screen uploads, and they're going to be bangers. Subscribe for more.